for a while in my business, like I was scared to look at my bank account. I was scared to look at how much was coming in, how much was going out. I was like, I didn't want to know. I don't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
I just want
I know
to
what you're
not
going
have
to
to deal
say
with
too.
it. Yeah. Well, and what Alex said is he goes, I've never made more money in my life than when I've looked at my bank account every day.
Welcome to Keep What You Earn, the show for business owners who want to scale profitably and build a business that's actually worth something. My name's Shannon Weinstein, and I run a fractional CFO firm to help seven-figure aesthetics and wellness practices scale with clarity, cash flow, and confidence without burning out or guessing their way into growth. Each week, you'll hear practical CFO insights, real stories about scaling and exiting, and clear financial strategies designed to help you understand what's holding your business back and how to fix it. If you want to follow along with the exact framework that we use with our clients, sign up for the free 5-part video series for aesthetics practice owners, where I walk you through the financial building blocks required to scale your practice and increase enterprise value. You'll find the link in the show notes.
Is your profit actually lying to you? There's a lot of clinic owners that struggle to read their financial analysis every single month. And today we've invited a wonderful guest from Keep What You Earn onto the Patient Magnet podcast, Shannon Weinstein, who you own the company, right? You started Keep What You Earn?
Yes, that's true.
Very wonderful. Yes, excellent. That is also true. And Shannon is going to be sharing with us the 3 ways that your profit is actually lying to you. So Shannon, why would you make this assertment that a clinic's profit is lying to the owner?
Because it's not telling the whole story. And we always say that if you're not telling the whole story, then you're leaving something out, and people are going to be working off of that information with bad information and making bad decisions. So it's my job as a CFO to make you aware that the profit isn't telling you the whole story and that you need to be digging a little bit deeper.
I feel like you probably have to play therapist a lot of the times as like a fractional CFO, where people want to feel good about their numbers. They're like, that's really good numbers, right? And you're like, no. We're going to do a postmortem here, and we're going to actually dig in deep to what is actually happening.
Yeah.
Terrifying. I do that all the time. I'm constantly trying to find the right numbers to go for. So let's start with, we promised them 3 areas that we will tell them how the profit is lying to them. Maybe let's start in the very beginning with what actual revenue is.
Yeah, and let's talk about how we get to profit too, because
Okay.
I think that's a big piece of it is people commingle like income, profit, revenue, all these different terms on the financials.
Right.
So
Right.
profit, guys, is after expenses. So after everything's come out, so you got revenue, which is how much patients pay you, minus your cost of providing those services. And then you subtract out operating expenses, the cost to run a practice, and then you get your net profit. So what I like to say is that net profit, people usually anchor onto as their report card or their scorecard for their business and say, if my profit is good, I'm running well, like I'm doing a good job. And just like any other health metric, you can't just be looking at one thing and assessing the overall health. It would be like getting up in the morning, weighing yourself on the scale that day and saying, I am healthy because I weigh this much. But you can't make a broad statement about one metric. So we want to make sure that there's a holistic view of the company and that you're understanding how that profit is calculated and what goes into it.
Yeah.
And what we always start with is revenue, because that's the metric that everybody looks at. It's a vanity metric. It's the surface level. It's the, the top line you see. And it's really important that you understand that. Yeah, that you understand that revenue is going to kind of lie to you, but revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. And it's really important to know what is true revenue for your practice, because we have this concept in accounting where you have to understand what revenue you've earned versus what revenue you've been paid, but you haven't earned yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. And there's so many factors too that I see clinics struggle with. Like the biggest thing, I'm a marketer, so I don't know everything about the consulting side on the finances, but I will be working with a lot of brand new businesses, and I'll say, "Oh, do you have a membership?" And they'll say, "Oh yeah, we're thinking about starting a membership, and we've been hearing so much about beauty bank memberships. We should have a beauty bank membership, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they can be awesome." And I always add this one caveat. I'd interested to hear your thoughts here, because I'm sure it's in the same kind of category. But I always say, yes, it can be awesome, but you have to track production revenue versus collection revenue. Production being the value of the services you rendered versus collection being the actual cash you took in, because a business might render 100 grand worth of services, but 50,000 of those 100 grand might have been members collecting on their debt that you owed them, and so the business owner will walk away thinking, I had $100,000 a month, and it's like, well, you had 50,000 cash maybe before expenses or something like that.
Yep.
Do you find that is it common that people can track that, or is it much less like most people are clueless to the fact that they're hitting so many debts essentially?
Yeah, I think that what people don't realize is that is a different flavor of revenue. So you bring that money in, but you didn't really earn it yet until you have actually provided the treatment or the service. So what we like to do is kind of, just like you're kind of letting your clients bank that, we kind of mentally bank that and don't take it too seriously as revenue, because you have to wait until you provide the service to technically earn it. And I want to just like kind of pose this like reframe for those listening, that if you go to sell your practice, if you want to actually sell, that is a liability, we call it, on your balance sheet. That is actually something that you will owe. So if somebody comes in and buys your practice, it's actually a false sense of health, because what they don't realize is, oh, there's all this revenue coming in. And then you go over there and say, ooh, we have about 1,000 different treatments we owe to people for no charge, which is like the prepaids and the memberships and the gift cards and all this other stuff that you've already collected the money for. But now your person who's buying your company now has to go cash those checks you wrote. So now they got to go and deliver the services potentially for free. And that actually is a detractor of your value when you go to have your business valued and purchased, because the person who's buying it realizes they've inherited an obligation, not a revenue source.
Do you advise people not to do the beauty banking for that pure reason? Do you advise them to just do like a monthly subscription instead that's like an actual revenue generator?
Yes, I much prefer the monthly subscription. I call it the Costco method, where you just have a stream that is a membership, and there's benefits to that membership that are consistent. So you're always going to get coupons, special deals, discounts on services, and like first priority
exclusive
booking.
events. You get exclusive events. Maybe there's partners locally that you get little deals on. I'm with that.
Because tracking the beauty bank thing is a nightmare and not worth it. It's not worth it. And also to your patients, it's complicated. You have got to, you're a marketer, simple sells. Like just know that you're going to pay me this X dollars a month and you're going to get like preferred treatment, first class cabin type of thing. And you're going to be in the elite of our customers and the first to know about XYZ, the first to get discounts on new treatments and things and whatever. Like show that there's benefit to that, but don't, I think that people, they over-engineer these things, make them too complicated, and everyone wants recurring revenue. That's the new thing. But I think you can do it very intentionally with a membership plan that doesn't bank treatments and make it too complicated.
Yeah, it would be like Disney selling like a more expensive pass that guarantees you get a certain amount of food and a certain set of rides every time you come to the park, where it's like, it would just be a nightmare for Disney to manage, and it's annoying for you as the guest. Like, no, I just want my annual pass and I want to go in and do my thing when I do it, and I'm going to pay my monthly fees that I pay you guys or whatever.
One of the biggest questions that we get as CFOs is, when am I ready to expand? When am I ready to exit? Unfortunately, it is a complicated question, but the answer can be simplified into a framework that we've developed that helps identify the 5 financial vital signs that are indicating if you're ready for expansion into new locations or possibly an exit. You can find the link to the video series in the show notes that walks you through the simplified framework and helps you identify the biggest thing in your way to those goals.
Yeah, and you're more likely to keep people. Because you're more likely to have less churn, because people, when they don't use it, they don't pay. So like they'll pay for the membership, and that will hopefully encourage them to use it. But the membership fee should be small with relation to what it is they're getting. And then that will just encourage retention. So the membership should be a retention vehicle, not a revenue driver in a sense. The membership should actually be feeding more of the long-term treatment plans, more different services. Well, if I'm going to be a member, I'm already getting a laser treatment, microneedling, and hydrofacial and Botox. I should just be a member and I should try all these other things. This would be great. And then that just keeps them longer as a sticky customer.
Yeah. And clinics, I'll tell you what, clinics that have high debts to their patients are terrified. I worked with one that was doing an e-commerce switch. They were switching from their current e-commerce platform into a different one. They had us help manage it. And they had $500,000 worth of gift cards in the current e-commerce platform. And we told them, hey, by the way, we're about to switch these gift card dues over. And there's going to be an email sent to everybody who has a gift card out. And they were like, is there any way on planet Earth that we cannot send that email? I do not want to remind $500,000 worth of debt at once that they can collect on it. It would cripple us, and I'm like, I can't imagine walking around with that like cloud over my head of owing that much money to that many people, so I'm with that. I would rather just have the subscription. I'm 100% with the Costco method. I think that's cool. That's very cool.
You pay for a membership and you go buy the stuff. It doesn't replace buying the stuff. That's so key because it also helps you track good data on what treatments they're receiving. So if it's like, oh, it's a beauty bank, and like your EMR is going to explode if you try to create this many different types of treatments and SKUs of them in a way, like it's just not worth it. So
it's annoying.
Membership all the way, but isolated membership from the treatments.
I love that. So, the very first point we're making here about profit lying to you is that you need to know what your actual revenue is, or more or less, you need to know what the actual number is that you're taking in, right? And you said something earlier when we were prepping. You said accrual versus cash. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, this is accounting jargon, technical stuff. So there are these two different methods you can do your accounting under. Cash accounting is when I get money, I have revenue, meaning when cash crosses the counter from the patient to my register, I have revenue. Accrual says, no, you don't have the revenue until you earn it, meaning you provide the service. So if a patient comes in and they have a prepaid package, let's say it's 3 microneedling treatments for a certain amount of money, and they give you the money, you technically, let's say it's over the course of 6 months. Now you've got the money in, let's say it's $1,000. So you get the money in for $1,000, and then you say, okay, I have $1,000 today. Cash basis says you have $1,000 of revenue. If it's over the course of the next 6 months, it's actually, I'm not going to do the math, it's $1,000 divided by 6. If they expire in 6 months, if the item expires in 6 months, or if it's for 3 treatments, you're going to book that revenue, each treatment, a third. So you have to make sure you're accruing that, we call it, in accounting. And this is why accounting is actually complicated, because it's not as simple as money came in, I made revenue. And accrual, the way that you do it when you earn it, is the most accepted when you're going to sell your business. It's the most compliant, and it's what people start to expect, especially if you're looking at private equity or you're expanding and you're growing. You're going to be expected to follow that method. So you want to be familiar with it and have the option to view your practice with that lens so you know how it might be valued in the future.
Yeah, it's tricky too, because if somebody sells a package and the person who bought it has options of the services that they're getting, then the actual revenue generated is dependent on which thing they select, because you don't have a guaranteed overhead for each thing. So if you say, oh, you could get Tox, or you could get this one laser, or you could get this whatever with this special package, then it's hard to go back and then you're tracking, okay, how much did we actually make? Because we also have overhead per, we have consumables per service. So yeah, tracking on accrual. So accrual is the gold standard, making sure that you don't say that you made money until you delivered the service for the money.
Exactly. You want to be able to, and if you use something like a QuickBooks, which most people do, you can toggle between the two, but you want to make sure your bookkeeper is tracking on accrual too, so that you don't have a skewed version of what's happening.
What percentage of clinics that you guys work with have an in-house bookkeeper?
If we work with them, none, because they use us.
Yeah, of course.
But,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But how many do I encounter when they come work with us? In-house, pretty much none. Almost everyone is using some type of external provider. If it's not the practice owner's family member, close friend, neighbor, or accounting firm that did their taxes since they were a kid. It's always the familiar, close by proximity hire, I call it, because it's convenient, because we don't want to go out and hire accountants because we don't know what we're looking for. So 100%. We hire the first person someone recommends, or we hire the first person that's closest by saying they have those 3 letters on their name.
My mom was my bookkeeper for the longest time, and she still does help with our books, but we have bookkeepers now, and we have more financial institutions installed into our business. But it was my mom for a long time because she was a bookkeeper, and I was like, great, I don't know this money stuff.
Yeah, I always joke around and say, like, you wouldn't let your aunt inject your face. Like, don't let them do your books.
It's very true.
Like they're not
Very
trained
true.
in that. And I go, they're not trained in that either. It's a
No.
science. It actually is a
Yeah.
science. I go, guys, we get a degree in this and I passed a 6-month exam. It can be, bookkeeping can be doable for a lot of people who have experience, but there's these little nuances like that accrual versus cash that you need somebody who's skilled to know how to do that the right way.
Awesome. Well, for number one, if your profit's lying to you because you are tracking cash and not actual accrual of the services that you have rendered. So make the big switch. Ensure that you are tracking accrual, especially if you're going to be selling at some point. You want to make sure that you have a true number that you can report to this person that is considering buying buying you. That's number one. Number two is commingling margins, right? Okay, tell me, I'm saying phrases because we talked about this beforehand.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of this means.
Okay.
Shannon, please enlighten us as to what commingling margins is.
So, when you're in college and you have these like giant group projects you have to do with your class, and it's like 3 of you in the group. And if you're like me, you're the one who did everything, but everyone got the same grade.
Yes.
So that's what's happening with your treatments, most likely, is that you're looking at your margin at a company level, at a business level, and saying, my margins are great. But your Botox margin might kind of suck, and your laser margin might be great. So your laser might be that kid in the class that's doing all the work. And
Right.
you also may have providers who are those people, by the way, who are super productive and who are carrying the weight of people who are idle. So just because your overall business margin is healthy doesn't mean each individual margin is healthy that contributes to that. You can have
Okay.
an overall healthy profit, but you probably could do better if you got rid of some fat, trimming it, and
Yeah.
saying, I'm going to get rid of these lower margin services, or at least not run as many ads to them. I think I'm going to push more of these higher margin services and try to get more of those in the door because they're more worth the time.
So what are maybe a couple of different buckets of margin tracking that people should be? So it sounds like they should be tracking margins on services as
Yes.
well as separately tracking margins on revenue producers like providers or maybe even skincare products.
Yeah, I like to look at it as like utilization, right? So you have like provider utilization that you're looking for productivity, but then the margin, when I say margin, what I mean is, let's use Botox as an example. So if we say it's an injectable, I say, okay, what we bring in Botox revenue, a certain amount per unit, then we have to pay the provider for the hours they're spending, and we have to pay for the actual consumable items. So when you factor all that in, you have a cost to provide a Botox service, including, call it numbing time, anything else. You have to really look at how much time is this taking, and then how much product is it taking. And that will tell you how much did you make after those costs come out. That's your profit. And then that is used to go run your practice. So we call that gross profit or gross margin. That's the core profit to understanding each of your services. So with lasers, it's how much time does it take for the provider plus any materials that they need to use in the appointment, and plus possibly upstart time for any of the equipment or any like boost to the electric bill. But if you're if you have cryo or
Is
something.
it that? I was gonna say, is it that much? Like, are there some devices
not
that
for
just
lasers
drain
as much,
you?
but I have one that does cryo, and basically every time they turn that thing on, they better do 3 appointments with it, or they might lose money on it. It's true, because when you turn it on and off, there's a huge, think of like a really slow computer from the 80s trying to restart. So there's like a lot of idle time to get it to the temp you need it to be, or a sauna or things like that. So anyway, those things can cost money. So you have to understand the cost to simply provide this service and know what you should be charging. So you should be pricing accordingly. Totally different conversation. But when you're looking at your costs, you should understand which ones have higher margins. So even if you feel like you can't turn the dial strongly in one direction or the other, and you're like, well, these are just all my margins, but God, everybody loves Botox, but it's my worst margin. This is like the story at every clinic. It's
Totally.
my worst margin. Everyone comes in for it. I say, okay,
Loss
great.
leader.
Loss leader, but
Yeah.
this is how you use it to your advantage. Is Botox is the entry level treatment plan. So they come in for Botox, and you sit with them, you build loyalty, you build trust. I mean, you have to trust the person with a needle in your face. Sorry, like you have to. So once you build that trust, now you say, hey, you know what you could use, or whatever that may look like for you, right? We don't get overly salesy, but you want to develop a treatment plan where, hey, you've come in for this. Would you like us to show you what else we have that could supplement this or help you last your results longer? Here are some things that we recommend for you. And it feels custom, it feels bespoke, it feels cared for. you deliver a treatment plan that integrates other high margin services so that at a blend, that customer is profitable.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, for margins in general, are there any benchmark ranges that the listeners that are here can say, "Oh my gosh, I have a problem"? Are there benchmark ranges for devices of what your margin should look like? Are there benchmark ranges for fillers and talks that they should be like, "Hey, you should be within this range.
Yeah.
If you're not, you should call a fractional CPA."
Yeah, it's like
Or
call
fractional
911.
CFO.
So I would say Botox is typically around the 55% mark, which is on the low end, meaning that you're keeping just over half of your money every time that you inject.
On the talks, but also including the staff time?
Including the
Or
staff time.
just-
So like
Okay, got it.
overall, the cost to deliver a Botox injection, a session or an appointment would be about a 55% margin, meaning it costs you 45% of your revenue. So a lot of people are, and you know why? Because we're price gaming it. Because there are so many providers that people are starting to compete and they're offering discounts. That's a whole nother episode. They're offering discounts on medical treatment, which I'm not a fan of, and bonuses, promotions, and things that, this is the easy thing to do because it's easy to market because it's a bit trendy and people are looking for it right now. There's high demand. So with that, like I said, it's a great entry-level treatment. Once we get into higher margin services though, lasers are great. They're absolutely great. They require basically staff time. And once you have the equipment, if you're using it, you should be able to make a really good margin on that because they typically do high value work. I mean, look at like laser hair removal is actually great because it's a huge
What kind of
value.
range? What kind of range
70,
for lasers would they?
70-ish. So we're looking at between, I'd say 65 to 75% is a great benchmark for most of your services. I always say Botox kind of falls below that. And then anything surgical, like my cosmetic surgeons are at like 80, 90%.
Yeah, they're like 99%. Their personal time is the only cost.
Well, and then the kicker is that you're kind of in
but-
that golden handcuff situation where unless you hire another surgeon, you still have a job and it wouldn't be a sellable business unless it's all built on your reputation, your brand. So that actually is challenging because you have high margin but high risk. Because if you leave, the business is not really sustaining its value. So that's why I think that you want to be looking at margins between, I would say 65 to 70% for just the cost of providing the service is a good place to start at across the board. But then it will matter based on the types of treatments and the material costs.
Okay, so as a benchmark, the listeners, we can maybe have some sort of grace for a loss leader that is driving revenue, and maybe that thing is getting as low as 55%. It's a demand builder, and it's getting as low as 55%. However, every other service should be averaging 65, 70-ish percent so that you can do exactly what you said, so that the class can come together and raise the overall profit margin.
You should be getting an overall grade of about a 70%, right? And that includes the loss leaders. So they have to make up for the fact that you may have a lot of Botox sales that are dragging down that average. So you got to insert some A players in there and make sure that they're also performing and that you're blending this out to, I would say 65 to 70% across your business, considering all of those different margins in between.
So that's the service side. And then what about on the employee side? What kind of a range should they be expecting on profitability per treatment provider?
So it will depend on utilization. So there are some metrics you want to be tracking, and it's hard to say what good looks like without knowing the exact way that person is utilized, right? So I could tell you an injector should be making X $100 per hour, but it's really about what they're offering. So what are the treatments that they are equipped to provide? But what you should be tracking, so that this is really useful to you guys, is utilization, meaning what hours of the day are they in treatments providing services versus not when they're working for you? Yeah. What is their revenue per hour? Very simply put, take all of the hours that they're working, or take all of the hours, that they're working getting paid, not that they're providing, but that they're getting paid for, and you divide up the revenue produced. So how much revenue did they generate for you? And then what's the average per hour that they've actually generated? And I think you'll be surprised if you look at this to find that because of idle time and other things in between, cancellations, no-shows maybe, that you're actually like, ooh, I'm only making like a couple of times their rate in revenue per hour because they had a couple of treatments, but then they sat still for a while. And so when you blend that together, it actually hurts. And then the last thing would be, I look at revenue per square foot, but that's less of the provider and more of the room utilization. The providers have some influence over that, but those are like the big three to me that measure how productive your practice is.
Yeah, we used to have on our side, when we would talk about benchmarking for like traffic to clinics' websites, we used to say that you should be getting 400 to 500 views to your website per full-time schedule that you wanted to fill. We've changed that recently just to say, hey, per treatment room. That's it. Because your rate limiting step is the space that people can be treated in, and so we tell clinics either full-timers or treatment room, whichever number is higher, because sometimes people have like, it's rare, but sometimes people have like 6 extra rooms that they don't know what to do with. And I'm like, God bless you. That's awesome. They're like, but we've got 2 people, 2 rooms. It's like, great. So you have 2 rooms right now is what you got.
Yeah.
But rooms has been what we've been encouraging people to measure their business
better than
in general.
one room with 6 different things in it. Then the patient doesn't feel comfortable because there's all these different things that they could do in there, and it's
the devices
it's too crowded.
sitting around them and just hovering over them.
Yeah.
All right. So number one, the number one way that your revenue is lying to you, or your profit is lying to you, is that you need to first know actually what your revenue is. You need to measure an accrual. Next is you cannot be commingling your margins. You need to make sure that you understand how much margin you have per service, and then combine them together after that, so that you understand where your loss leaders are and where you should be driving your lead generation. Last, you said cash is king. Tell me what that means.
Yes, there's this saying that I borrowed from one of my mentors, which was revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. And this is the biggest one because people read a profit and loss statement. So if you have a bookkeeper, you have an accountant, if there's nothing else they give you, it is a P&L, profit and loss, at the end of every month. And they'll say, here's your profit, here's what you made, here's what you paid, and here's what's left over. And people, I can't tell you how many times we've asked this question, which is like, you get to tax time, which is kind of where we're at right now in the year.
Yeah.
You get to tax time and you go, dang, it says here I made like $200,000. Where's that money?
It's not in my bank account.
It's not my bank account. I got to pay 50 grand in taxes. When did that happen? Where's my money? Huh? And then you go to the accountant and go, this is not right. And it's like, actually, yeah, that's true. So here's how it works. If your business were a garden, call it a fruit tree, mango tree, because I love using this reference. So you're growing these mango trees, and at the end of the year, unfortunately, the IRS is going to come and tax you on how many mangoes grew, not how many you picked. So it's going to tax you on, okay, you grew 10 mangoes on that tree. Cool. You're going to get a tax on those 10 mangoes. It's like, but I only ate one of them. I don't care. Or better yet, I ate all of them.
Yeah.
I don't have any left to give you.
Whoops.
Whoops. They come around and take 20% of your mangoes every year. And you go, wait a minute. I took all of them off the tree because I grew them. And it's like, that's true. But we come around every year and we take 20% of them. So the problem is that if you're not planning for the cash side of this, number one, this is how those tax traps happen, because you're going to get taxed on the profit, whether you took it out of the business or you didn't. So that's number one. Number two is that what you're not factoring in with your profit, what it doesn't think about. So the profit's telling you one side of the story of what you generated from your operations. So this is what your practice produced for your operations. The next part of that story is now you use that profit, you use that money you generated to go pay your loans back on all that equipment you bought, to go pay off all of your other debt, to distribute money to yourself. So if you're taking transfers out of your business and paying yourself every month, if it's not through a salary, then you're going to be just taking money out through a distribution, which is totally fine. But that's a cash leak that doesn't show on the P&L. So if you're making $200K in paper profit, I call it, but you took out $300,000 between your loans and your other stuff and buying inventory, that doesn't go on your P&L, only when you sell it. So now you've also got this inventory of retail stock. You've got this loan for this hydrofacial you bought. You got this other thing. And then it's going, wait a minute, that's where all my money's going. So cash flow is where you actually catch that, or the balance sheet. That's why the balance sheet's important. But you have to understand your cash flow, which is what I call the metabolism. It's how money is flowing in and out of the practice from the standpoint of to generate profit or to pay off other things and generate capital. And that's the difference, is you have all these different things happening with your cash, and the profit is only one side of the story.
So how should people get an eye on their cash? What's a simple way that they can start doing it? I imagine there's a lot more complex strategies that when they hire somebody that is specialized in it. But maybe what's a simple way that they can just start getting some awareness around their cash?
This is the fun part. There isn't a complicated way. It's actually crazy simple. So
love it.
So I literally do this with my business every week, and I do this for your businesses every week. And it's this simple. I go into the bank account, like online, and say, how much do I have on Monday morning? How much is in my bank account? And then I map out, okay, here's what I'm expecting to come in this week based on what's on the appointments. Then I go through the costs. How much am I running in payroll? What's my typical payroll? Directionally correct. It doesn't have to be to the penny, but just say, okay, about this much in payroll every couple weeks. And then, okay, I pay this credit card off every month on the 17th, and it's about this much. And okay, so once you have an idea of where the money's going, I just do this map, this forecast every week from here until the end of the year. I already have it for all of my clients. And it says, here's what money's coming in, here's what money's going out, and here's how much I'm going to have in the bank in 6 months based on all of this plan. And then when you decide, oh, I'm going to hire another provider, guess what? Add a line, add the provider, see what it does to your cash.
Easy.
See what it does to your revenue. And you can actually play around with scenarios with this. It's actually a really simple thing. Even if you're not a spreadsheet fan, you can simply it's just pluses and minuses. It's just starting balance of your bank plus all the stuff coming in minus all the stuff going out equals the ending cash at the end of the week. And then lather, rinse, repeat as many weeks out as you want. I say start with 6 weeks because that's a great way, because you already have line of sight. Like, it's not blurry. The next 6 weeks, you can kind of get an idea. Your credit card statement's probably already pretty much set for the next month, so you know how much is coming out for that. So you start out with 6 weeks and then go from there, and you'll kind of get hooked into getting it right, and then realizing, this is actually a really good tool for me to predict.
And well, it's funny. Alex Hermosi, the financial influencer, I heard a quote from him that said this, and I was like, that's so great. It made me, because for a while in my business, we've been around, I think 8 years. And for a while in my business, like, I was scared to look at my bank account. I was scared to look at how much was coming in, how much was going out. I was like, I didn't want to know. I don't want to know. I just want to not have to deal with it. Yeah. Well, and what Alex said is, he goes, I've never made more money in my life than when I've looked at my bank account every day. Yep. If I open up and I look at the number there, all of a sudden where your focus goes, that's what grows, you know? And if you're focused on ensuring that your cash is up every single day, or that you are having intention around it every single day, it'll move, it'll move in the direction that you want it to, because that's where your intention and focus is. Every single day you're like, oh my gosh, how do we make more money? How do we increase our profit margin so that we can, have the cash that we need? It's not about greed. It's about having a business that works, It's about having a business that functions properly.
I'm going to go back to my analogy with the scale. Like, if you're on a GLP-1 or if you're on a weight loss program, like, the more frequently you weigh yourself. So if you're weighing yourself every week, you can see the results. If you're weighing yourself every 3 months, you can't connect results to behavior. So now, if you're actually measuring those things regularly, you can start connecting behaviors to outcomes, because you can say, ooh, I had pizza and beer last night and now I weigh more. Now I figured out that's what happens when I make this choice. This is what will happen. Let's not do that again if we want a different outcome. So you're getting that sort of feedback loop a lot faster. If you're looking at your numbers, you're going to be able to then get that feedback loop of, ooh, I made a choice and now I see that happening, and now I can kind of pivot and, change that. And that's what the forecast helps you do, is kind of paint the picture of, if this, then what, right? If I hire someone, if I change my comp program, if I increase commissions, what does that do long-term to my profit and my cash flow?
Yeah. And that just puts people in the driver's seat of their business. Cause I would venture to bet, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I would venture to bet a lot of med spa owners are like me. When I was in the beginning of my business, they don't want to look at the numbers. They don't want to know. No. They just want to treat people. And unfortunately, because I've been feeling like I've been getting on a soapbox about this recently, because I hear a lot of clinicians. I've been talking about how much I've been marketing, and how I will, for 2 hours a day, I'll I'll schedule time for me to invest in marketing efforts. And any clinician I talked to about that, I said, if you're a young business owner, you should be spending 2 hours a day in marketing. They're like, well, that's not why I got into business. It's like, unfortunately, you're in business. If you don't want to market, if you don't want to manage your books, if you don't want to manage your business, go work for somebody. You don't have to.
Exactly. Your job title is business owner, not the technician anymore.
Yeah.
E-Myth references, right? But
that's exactly right.
And to your point, I have this analogy I use, and I actually do it in orientation with my clients where I talk about what you might be used to is pretend you're driving a car, right? You're trying to get to a certain destination with your business. And what your CFO is supposed to be is the person in the front seat with Waze telling you about all the potholes coming up and the detours and the car accidents and being like, let's avoid 91. It looks like it's going to be pretty rough. Let's go around this way so we get you to your destination faster. What people instead do is throw us the keys, hide in the trunk, and go drive.
Go for it. I'll be back here.
I'll be back here. I don't want to even know. Don't tell me. And then they don't like where they end up because they had no part in the decisions on the routes to take and all of the navigation. They try to relinquish the control. And I go, you got to keep your hands on the steering wheel. It's your car.
Yeah.
It's your car. It's your business. It's your destination and your goals. I will never care as much as you do about it than you do.
It's true.
And you have to take ownership of it, but then equip us to help you to the best extent possible, be your vehicle to help you get there. But we got to know where you're going if I'm going to help you navigate.
100%. And there needs to be buy-in on both sides the whole time. It has to be a 100%. Journey together, not a journey that you're ripping somebody down. Because we've had that too in marketing where people are just like, oh, I'm just going to throw all the cash at you and you're going to do it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's your business and you need to be involved in these decisions. Happy to let you delegate a lot to me, but I still need you to know your data.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine going to a restaurant 100%. And saying, I'm hungry, make me something. And it's like, I don't know what you like. I don't know what you want. Like,
and then they make you food.
This is not going to go
well.
well.
Like that. You're like, I don't like that. Then you're upset with them for making you food that you don't like. And it's like, I didn't
then
make
you should
preference.
choose off the menu. So it's all those things, right? You have to own your choices and own your decisions in your business. And to your point, like bluntly, if this is too much, then consider the alternative. Consider working for someone else because that's kind of what you sign up for in business.
Be an entrepreneur. And I've seen a couple talks about this recently and I love it. At conferences, I'll see people lecture of like, look, you can build an amazing life for yourself working for somebody else.
100%.
But if you're going to be a business owner, you have to decide there's 3 classes that business owners have to get an A+ in. They got to get an A+ in marketing, an A+ in sales, and an A+ in service delivery. And if all 3 of those things are functioning well, then generally they're going to survive and thrive. But you don't get to just say, I'm not going to the other classes, and say, well, I only signed up to be a service provider. It's like, well, then you have to do that under somebody else's name because you need to do the other 2 in order to manage your business well.
Exactly.
So you got to do the business owner side. That is very good insight. So your profit is lying to you because you need to know what actual revenue is and know your accrual versus your cash. You need to stop commingling margins and you need to understand what your individual margins are, whether it's per revenue provider or per service. And you need to understand that cash is king. Ultimately, the cash that you are driving through your business is the thing that is coming out at the end of every single month. And so if you don't have cash coming out, then you have a big problem and you need to give a call to somebody like Keep What You Earn in order to get that resolved. But ultimately, cash is king. Man, this has been great. Okay, so if somebody wants you guys to help them with that, I think you guys have some sort of like a playbook on your website or something like that, right?
We do. So if you like how we simplify this stuff and you want to hear more about it, we have this amazing financial scaling playbook for aesthetics. It's at keepwhatyouearn.com/playbook. And you can it's a quick 5-video series from me explaining a very simple way to look at growing your enterprise value in a practice bit by bit and understanding your numbers.
That is awesome. Yeah, guys, check this out. I mean, everything that you're saying today, Shannon, I'm just very much like, yes, this is right on point. This is great. This is great. We were doing like we were talking before we started recording, and Shannon would come up with say a couple things and be like, yes, okay, wait, hold on. I'm not going to react to that. Yeah, we got to talk about this later. Later. So rock solid. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time to be on the Patient Magnet podcast today. Anybody who's watching, if you vehemently disagreed with anything we said, throw it in the comment below. We'd love to fight you. whether we're on Spotify or YouTube, throw it down below. Or if you agree, say cash is king down in the comments below. Make sure that you're subscribing. Make sure that you're liking this. Share it with somebody who needs it. And we'll see you in the next one. Again, thank you so much, Shannon from Keep What You Earn. Very grateful that you took the time to be on the show today.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If it left you feeling inspired to take action, make sure to check out our free video series that walks you through the same framework that we use as a CFO team to identify what's holding a practice back from growth and how to fix it. Links in the show notes. See you on the next episode.